KPI monitoring and monitoring of contracts externally and the like, and then a maritime directorate looking after the ISPS type issues, the IMO type issues, shipping regulations, port state control. This is all being driven as part of the reform project, range of specialist support these outcomes. So part of that, there was a CEO, expat CEO appointed for the project period. There's an operations specialist, a HR specialist, an IT specialist, finance, legal, shipping and port state control, and a fishing specialist. So all of those people are on for various periods of time over the project period to help drive the numerous changes that have to happen before the actual infrastructure is delivered. Together with that, there's a range of regulatory changes. So not the least of which is the new NMPA Act, so taking place of the Port Authority Act, and subordinate regulations under that Act, Maritime Security Act, and a range of documents that are going to be required as part of an EOI process and an RFT process for concessions. The concessions, as I mentioned before, a lot of it's around the ability to provide immediate and capable personnel for some of the functionality. But as such, we're also being very careful to make sure that there's training provisions and minimum numbers of Nauru employment required and the like, so it doesn't just become a completely expat organisation or the like. A lot around tariff management, KPIs, transparency, governance as part of this arrangement. And as I said before, effectively what Nauru will end up with is a common user port model. Sorry, I did forget to mention as part of the changes, there's also a second berth, a second wharf for fishing layup. Continue to support that will be important, but also to develop local skills, and they'll have a tug as well, so we need some skills to be able to provide and those services. And then things like minerals. So there's minerals exports at the moment. If they move into the new port ultimately, that would also be a concession. Linked with all of this is a strategic plan. Strategic plan is borrowing from a lot of the work that we've done for a number of other Pacific Island countries, including at the moment with Fiji. But what we're looking at in Nauru is a 4-year strategic plan as a minimum, whereby we have 2 years effectively for transition during construction and getting new equipment, getting people trained up as best we can to be able to provide those services to future concession holders and the like. So we leave the country in the best hands possible. And then at least the first 2 years of the commercial and regulatory functions, so where we have concessions and what those KPIs might be, what the controls might be in terms of the strategic plan. So that's a really quick snapshot. Appreciate if there's any questions. And sorry to Kemp if I've covered any material from your country report.
Okay, Scott, thank you very much for that presentation. Seeing that we're running out of time, I'll give you my business card, one to you and one to William, and make August your first stop in the South Pacific. Come to the Cook Islands, eh? Then we will sit down and have a good talk. Good luck to the Aussies in the World Cup. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Scott, thanks about the Nauru presentation. Just, I want to know whether there was some cost-benefit analysis or the return on investments when the funding proposals were submitted to ADB. Whether that's what type of return on investments or the cost-benefit analysis to make it feasible. I hope the project was feasible. That's why ADB came on board to provide the funding, including the Australian government. If you'd like to share that with us, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Bim. So yes, there were 2 stages of the original proposal project, a technical assistance project that looked at economic and financial feasibility, among other things, and a range of environmental aspects as well. That had to pass a feasibility stage before it went on to the actual design phase. So that passed 18 months 2 years ago. It had all the normal ADB criteria in terms of financial feasibility and rates of return. So it did achieve those, and a lot of that was based on the need to increase tariffs at the time, which hadn't been increased for a number of years in Nauru anyway. So they've actually been reset and recast now to a level that there's actually no tariff adjustments necessary now for the next 6 years or so in terms of its ongoing feasibility based on the throughputs that were assumed at the time.
Yeah, Scott, just a quick question. The reclamation you showed there, which was added, how deep is that and where did the material come from?
Well, that's actually, for those that are unfamiliar with Nauru, so Nauru has a drying reef in effect, so about 100 metres on average wide that dries at low tide. So that reclamation is actually on the reef platform itself, so it's actually using some of the material beneficially out of the dredging project. The dredging profile in Nauru is actually all very hard rock primarily, so and limestones and the like. So it'll use a lot of that material in the reclamation area, but it has to be set back far enough so that the big plunging breaking waves that you get near the reef edge, because where the reef edge is, it then drops away at about a 45-degree angle down to plus 1,000 metres, not that far offshore, obviously. So it has to be set back far enough that we're not going to drag all of the armour or otherwise end up with massive armour like you were talking about in your presentation yesterday to protect that area. So. Some more?
Any more questions for Scott or Will?
I'll get out of the way.
Okay, can I get a round of applause for the gentleman? Thank you for that. Scott really made my country report easy later on. So now we have from Portstar, we don't have any introduction, but it's the name is Ian McGee, Iwa pronounces not. Can we welcome Ian to the podium, please?
Next.
Hi everyone. My company, Portstar, we're based in Auckland. We've been going for quite a few years. For many, many years, all we did was repairs and maintenance, engineering, looking after machinery for all sorts of companies in Auckland and around the South Pacific. We grew with Ports of Auckland, the Warehouse Group, a big retail chain in Auckland. Conlinks is the company that runs the Ports of Auckland inland terminals. Done a lot of work for them. Companies like Toll New Zealand, Toll Chemicals Australia, all doing repair work, second-hand machinery. That's 1980s. Then they made me redundant. Big mistake. So yeah, I was there for 2 years. Then I got a van and just started doing repairs around the place. They actually called me back after 3 months and said, "Can you come and fix a straddle carrier for us?" So and we built a business from there. Some big changes for us recently. From doing second-hand machinery, relocating straddle carriers, buying them off Ports of Auckland, selling them into Australia and around New Zealand. We grew through stuff like that. And then eventually, we decided that we needed to have our own product range of new machinery to sell. we had a lot of incidents like this that we had to fix up for our various customers over the years, and thought, well, there's going to be better ways of doing it. So we became the New Zealand and South Pacific dealer for Sani. And this is the first Sani reach stacker to come to New Zealand. You'll see that park there at Ports of Auckland, and that came in at the end of 2014. And since then, we've done fairly well, I think, and especially in the Pacific Islands. We've got our machinery now in quite a few of the South Pacific Islands. We've got 4 reach stackers in Vanuatu. We've got 2 here in Samoa, 1 in Fiji. We've got a crane in Niue and a reach stacker on its way. And we've also been involved in technical problem solving, consultancy, etc. Tonga, Rarotonga, even East Timor, even in Africa as well. And I thought this was probably quite relevant for at the factory in China, waiting delivery. We had to break it down to very small pieces that would fit in the barge in Niue, so it could be unloaded and assembled. So here it is, being transported to Ports of Auckland, where we've broken it down to pieces that were light enough to be handled by the existing equipment in Niue. And in Niue,